Howdy, toddy, God Almighty. It's the Triple Option Podcast coming from Cigar City Studios in a rainy Tampa, Florida. I am your host, Law Smith. Sitting here with me, mufflin, hungover, is the mouth of the Southeastern Conference, Mr. Tommy Howell.
Roll Tide.
We're also broadcasting on Google Hangout on our 3XO network, as we call it now. We're the Triple Option 3XO. So on the web, we're 3XO Pod. On YouTube, if you have any interest in watching us talk about college football, and we've got our buddy here, Fee, who's going to be manning a little bit of highlights if we can splice them in somehow. Go over to. He said, "What up?" Off mic. We will make it happen. Also,
we're not much to look at.
Not much to look at, but I think it's going to go that way. I think people are starting to watch a little bit of radio, either on a second TV or on a second monitor, or just put it on Apple TV, just bored. I'll watch Tim Brando's show.
Well, I mean, if we're going to do it more, maybe we should just keep Punky on full time.
We've got Punky at my foot.
I don't even know if anybody can see her, but
no, we got above desk.
Okay,
it's right over there.
We could put her on the desk.
We could. My dog is literally on my foot, and she thinks she's 7 pounds, and she's 70. She snores in her bed like a drunk John Goodman, while my fiance sleeps like a homeless man.
Okay.
So I'm awake.
Yeah. Do you ever sleep?
No, not a lot. It's kind of terrible. What else? You got back from Tuscaloosa. I guess we should just get into that game because.
Well, it's the one that's fresh in my mind.
Yeah. So
we got in today, flew in from Birmingham. So definitely, I probably sound pretty horrible right now. Voice is starting to come back though. I think the game was exciting. For the first half at least, just with all the turnovers, I think Florida was able to stay in the game. They got 21 points off of those turnovers. One they actually ran back for a touchdown. But once I think Alabama started to get a little ground on the in the running game,
mm-hmm.
They really were able to outmuscle Florida. I think kind of physically dominate them. Lane Kiffin called a great game plan, even from the first play. Bringing Kenyon Drake out of the backfield in a 5-wide set, matched up with the linebacker, slant and go, and a perfectly thrown pass from Blake Sims,
right?
Who had an amazing day, the second most passing yards in Alabama history,
445.
Yes, and obviously we have to talk about Amari Cooper. Right now, who is on a torrid pace, 45 catches all of last season through 11 games, and he's already got 43 through 4 games on the season so far, but really just couldn't be stopped, was running free most of the day. Vernon Hargraves, no match for him, although a lot of people thought that was probably going to be the best matchup of the day.
Well, I texted you that one bomb that went to him was harder than no one gave him credit about how hard that pass is to adjust, because it was over his left shoulder, but then he could see it kind of about 3 feet to the right as he's sprinting, and adjusts and does like a over the shoulder catch.
Sure.
No one made a big deal out of that.
Right. He did have to adjust a little bit. It was definitely a catchable ball, but he had to turn his body a little bit, kind of just to catch it. And
that's an insane. Like, I sat there and kind of really thought about that. I was like, that's kind of an insane play.
Yeah.
It won't get talked about.
Yeah, but total busted coverage on the play. Anytime you see a guy running that wide open, something wrong is going on defense, especially when it's the best receiver on the field. So, one thing I will say, as far as Muschamp and Florida are concerned, you always saw the defense show up. That was kind of their backbone. They couldn't move the ball last year, but they hung in a lot of games just because they could play defense and hang around. 600 and I think 50 yards of offense is the most offense Florida has ever given up in the history of Florida football. So I don't think that's going to sit well with Florida fans, already, that had Muschamp on the hot seat.
I don't know, man, because I feel like they were making a pretty good case on game day earlier that day, and a little bit in the pregame. I guess during that game, obviously you're watching replay maybe tonight, but I forgot that he's just had so many quarterbacks that have gone out of commission so early in every season. So he's basically never had a full deck when it comes to quarterback play since he's been there. Now, the other side of that is he should be preparing for that.
Right, and
with better backups.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, no matter what the results are, want to see a change, which probably is a little naive. But there are a majority of people out there, Emmitt Smith being one of them. Outspoken on Twitter. I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about. But basically said it's time for Jeff Driscoll to sit on the bench, and he's seen enough. So Driscoll, I will say he was a little bit more pressured. There weren't a ton of sacks. I don't know how many sacks Alabama had, but the pocket was getting pushed most of the game, so he was definitely working in a little cluttered pocket for most of the game. So I think he was completed 9 of 28. I don't know, something horrible.
It's 9 of 28, yeah.
9 of 28, and
a QBR, which it's hard for me to understand still, but it's a 23.3. I know that's bad.
Yeah, it's very bad, and they never got into a rhythm. And without those turnovers, the fumbles in the first half, Florida, I don't know if they score a touchdown.
Right.
To be honest, so they stayed in the game a little bit longer than they should have.
It was an interesting game to watch because it is uncharacteristic of.
There's Punky.
There she is. All right, girl. Come on. Let's get her out of here. Get out of here. Keep talking about the game. You guys can talk about it.
Yeah, well, at the game, as far as the atmosphere, you could just really tell the giant momentum shift when Alabama went up 35-21. I think I don't know if you felt that through the TV, but it was really I didn't think anybody thought Florida would come back from 35-21. Moved it to 42. Just basically Derrick Henry, a little bit of Yeldon, but they really couldn't stop the running game. I think they just kind of broke their will.
And how was it going to a game as what college guys officially call you an old man now?
Yeah, honestly,
It's like, oh, I am really, because I still think like I'm 20.
Right, they'll get it one day. No, it was fun. Good to be back. I hadn't been back since 2011, so. The stadium looks great, just a terrific atmosphere, and I think a lot of people were jacked up to see Florida, a team that doesn't pop up on the schedule all the time unless it's usually in Atlanta, for the SEC championship.
Right.
Plenty of Florida fans showed up, a couple of our buddies, friends of the program, so it was good to hang out.
Nice. They won't listen to this episode for sure.
Absolutely not. Story of the day, it's got to be Blake Sims.
Yeah.
A guy that nobody thought could throw the ball downfield, and I think that talk has ceased. And really, they're going to have to. Defenses trying to stop Alabama are going to have to account for him throwing the ball over their head because he can obviously do that.
Well, let's stay with the SEC West because we're kind of there. But that Mississippi State game.
That's a very, very big game in the SEC West.
Well, it's crazy. I've had this conversation a lot in the last week or two with people, and the SEC West, I think, the fifth team in the SEC West would be the best in the Big Ten, which would be Nebraska right now.
Yeah, I mean,
No?
That's an argument. You never know until it actually would get settled on the field. But there's a lot of people that would agree with that statement.
Right, and I've had a lot of people disagree with me on it, and it's like just insane. It's just a stacked half of the conference, and
Yeah, I mean, and for those who don't know, I mean, you've got obviously Alabama, but Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State all would be a tough out for anybody.
Right.
And when you say Big Ten versus any of those teams,
you said Texas A&M, right?
Texas A&M, I forgot them.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So even
which
deeper,
might be the best team.
Yes, and even deeper than most conferences, and that's we're just talking about one half of a conference. So
right.
Pretty remarkable.
It was one of those games where Prescott, we finally been waiting for him to kind of just really kind of show up. Anthony Jennings on the other side for LSU, really shitty.
Yeah.
He's really bad.
Yeah, Dak Prescott, finally Dan Mullen has a quarterback that, really in his system, if you've got it, you can go a long way. We've seen his offenses flourish with Alex Smith back at Utah, all the way to Tim Tebow, obviously. But Dak Prescott, very similar to Tebow as far as size, probably about 240 pounds, and I think he's a little bit better of a passer, more fluid throwing motion.
Right.
And really LSU, this is probably their worst defense, of the John Chavis era. I think they've got their work cut out for them this season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of guys, decided to go to the NFL in the last 2 years that I think, maybe they weren't expected to go so early. So as far as the depth that we're used to seeing at LSU, it's not there this year.
Yeah. And you have a crazy stable running backs. Y'all know I love Leonard Fournette. I love him since y'all told me about him.
Right.
I love him. Kenny Hilliard, Terrence McGee.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good backs.
Accounting for under 70 yards about, give or take. That's what kind of blew my way when I saw the box score afterward.
Sure.
This game looks closer than it actually was.
Yeah, they had to get away from the game plan. I mean, it was 34-10 at one point. So obviously you needed to dial it up and try and throw some passes down the field just to come back, and that's not LSU's game.
Mm-hmm.
They're definitely a ground and pound. They want to dominate possession, play defense, and
that was my porn name, ground and pound.
Ground and pound. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they had to get away from their game plan and couldn't establish the run. But hats off to Mississippi State. They've got some talent. Chris Davis up front. Just a defense that Dan Mullen hasn't had.
Right.
We talked about him not really having a great quarterback in that system, but really hasn't had a very stingy defense. So this Mississippi State team has got to be, after this win, is the most talented team he's had there.
And Mississippi State always had I felt like they always had oh, these two defenses are great this year, and then these two cornerbacks were great this year. Like they never had that complete package of there's one stud at every part of their defense.
Right.
So I'm not happy that we have to play them.
Right.
As Auburn.
Yeah. Same. Likewise, I thought about it. Just looking at the schedule, it's going to be tough for all of these teams to go undefeated. Obviously, somebody has to lose. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of good games within the West.
I'm hoping Dak Prescott jumps on a table and says "fuck her right in the pussy" or something.
Something's got to happen
before they play Auburn.
The process of elimination.
Speaking of which, thoughts on that suspension? Very to me Ray Rice-esque, where you make a suspension and then I've talked about this so much, so I can kind of make it concise, but. You make a suspension, your PR people and social media is all abuzz, and then you make a worse penalty, but it makes your stance on it look worse.
Yeah, it's all done after the fact. It doesn't really have that same meaning. you've already suspended him for a half. Well, this doesn't look good. It's not enough.
Right.
Well, let's just suspend him for the whole game. But everybody knows you're only doing it just for that PR purpose.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
So egg on their face. It is what it is. They ended up winning the game. But
you can't feel good as Florida State.
You can't feel good about it. Obviously Clemson had every chance to win that game. Typical Clemson.
Yeah.
As far as big games go, they haven't been able to get over that hump, and they were in position to win the game. Really, just couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
A costly turnover late, and allowed Florida State to stay in that game.
It was kind of remarkable. We were like, I know Clemson's going to shit this game. I know they're going to do it. Like, you just know they're Clemson. It's what you do when you. It's like you go to Washington, you're going to have an apple. You go to Clemson, someone's going to shit down their leg.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, the pass down the sideline to Green, you've got to wonder how you lose him in coverage. But hats off to McGuire, more of a gutsy performance than anything. He didn't wow anybody, but it's not like the kid came in and was like, this guy's absolutely awful. Did enough for them to win and stay in the game.
The Milton Berle, as they call it, Simmons refers to it as just pulling out enough to win. But it's one of those things where your quarterback shows up, the suspended quarterback shows up, and all pads warming up. I know no one's talking about like how that's kind of a mind fuck if you're the backup.
Right, you're like, well, wait, why is he dressed? Because he's not playing.
If he has to spend more than 30 seconds thinking about it, I think that's like a total mindfuck.
Well,
why is he out here?
Well, now the new statement from Florida State is that there was a confusion because of the suspension, and his pads were laid out at his locker, and that's and that's why. So let's for Florida State, let's make another statement that doesn't need to be made.
Right.
That looks even dumber.
Like Roger Goodell did on Friday.
Yes.
It's like, what is this?
And that's a good point. They're all related. This is all everything that's happening in the NFL right now directly correlates with what's going on in NCAA football.
Right.
So everybody's trying to make sure that they're doing enough to discipline their football players. But Florida State obviously dropped the ball on that one. And we'll see going forward. I think a lot of Jameis's teammates have got to be, whether they'll say it publicly or not, kind of fed up with it.
Yeah.
It's probably getting old. I'm sure they're getting questions from, their friends. What the fuck is up with Jameis? Is he going to grow up? I think those are probably questions they're getting asked. At some point, it's got to get old.
But 20 years ago, this doesn't happen.
Right. Oh, social media.
That's what bothers me. It's like, it just... And we put too much of an emphasis on it. Like
we're all guilty of that.
Like I think PR people, I don't think they realize how fleeting a lot of this stuff is. Like
how tough their job is.
Yeah,
it's pretty much impossible.
But I mean, like, it's what I'm saying is, like, you see that on Twitter and you go, okay, and then you go do something else. Like, that's what Twitter is. It's not like there has to be a long reads Twitter account because people don't spend enough time reading long shit on the internet.
Right. And plus, everybody. Let me talk about it.
Why are we surprised when shit like this happens? Why are we surprised that there's a shit ton of domestic violence in the NFL?
Right.
I'm not surprised.
No, I've
seen
either.
The program.
Yeah.
I've seen
Any Given Sunday.
I've seen Any Given Sunday. I know shit goes down. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised when these guys, they get zero education when they go through college. I mean, some might. The kicker, the punter, maybe, but like, they're Czechoslovakian. They don't know shit.
No, the stories of kids really excelling in the classroom are few and far between.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Even if they're getting a degree, they've basically got a study guide for every test.
The aforementioned Emmitt Smith.
Yeah.
Is like the worst public speaker of all time.
Yeah. It's definitely, we shouldn't be as surprised as we are, but that's just the social media culture that we're in. a lot of people were talking about it last week. The Peyton Manning story from when he was at Tennessee.
Yes, I saw you post that.
How he sat on his trainer's face.
If you need to find it, it's on the Big Lead.
Yeah, like he was getting worked on in the training room and basically just dropped trowel and was like, "Hey, like here's my stuff on your face."
Well, I got
there was like a out of court settlement and everything.
Yeah.
Definitely a big deal. And if it would have happened back then, he might get suspended for the season.
Sure. T. Martin starts. Wait, was he? He was after.
That was after.
Yeah, he'd be starting to get in there. My thing with it, and I had a little family feud with this because I tweeted out or status update or fan cred or whatever. I said clearly the PR people at FSU did a great job because I only saw 14 women say "fuck her right in the pussy" as they took shots of Fireball whiskey. Clearly, no one this offended 0 people.
Right. That's the thing. I think.
But then there's a whole backlash of I saw one yesterday. I wanted to barf. And I'll put it on my napkins article. I'll probably do tomorrow. Is a girl that's like, you represent FSU, and it was like all this entitled bullshit about I live in New York and I hate when I say I'm from FSU for these reasons of Jameis Winston, and you're like, you just stop telling people that. Stop. If you're that embarrassed, just say you went to Fordham. It's close. It's close enough.
Right.
Say you went to fucking Ferris State University in Michigan, which I drove by the other week. And then I got in a fight with my oldest sister, who took a screenshot and sent it to my parents.
Well,
and I was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
Whatever.
Goes, do you know how a disgrace this is to women, to your nieces? I was like, "You don't fucking understand what I'm saying." I was trying to explain. The joke of it is that the PR people didn't know how to handle this correctly.
Right. And then you've got.
I'm not making fun of women.
You've got a bunch of 18 to 20-year-old girls, that are fans of Florida State, really don't care as far as as long as they're winning.
Yeah.
I don't think they care too much about Jameis as far as what he's doing off the field. I know I don't speak for everyone in that population that I just talked about, but
we're speaking in generalities.
Yes, look, it is definitely in generality.
I saw it with my own eyes, and it was an older age range. It was probably 22-year-old girls to probably 32-year-old girls, and they're taking shots loud as shit, and it's they're attractive girls, so everyone's paying attention to them. Say "fuck her right in the pussy" and taking a shot, and I'm like, yeah, clearly this is a problem solved by suspending them.
Right, because a lot of people don't know about the meme. They don't know about the video.
I know.
The reporter that lost his job because of what he said, because he said that.
Oh, try to explain this to your mom, my mom.
I'm so glad that I don't have to.
I have to. I go, Mom, you don't get it. I'll send you the article what this meme was, but you still won't get it.
Yeah, you won't understand.
So.
Oh well.
That was fun. I'm still in that fight. I hope they listen to this. Let's see. Missouri losing to Indiana. Kind of the biggest upset.
I'd say definitely.
Indiana not really thought of as a school that has a football team. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know they have a football team.
More of a basketball town.
Yeah, obviously a legendary basketball program.
My favorite out of SEC school to party at, Bloomington.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people have had a good time. Whenever they stop in Bloomington. So maybe I'll have to put that on the bucket list.
Ooh, yeah, I would. It's a good place. I think they just ran out of steam. I only saw replays, only saw, the recap articles, but I thought Matty Mock was for real.
A lot of people were hopping on the Missouri bandwagon.
Well, I know he's not all of it, though.
Sure.
People
were talking about their defense, really just the team in general being a contender this year. But obviously they lost Indiana, so that talk is over.
As I say, Missouri, just like last year, the Zooey Deschanel of college football. Everybody thinks she's super hot and really, really hot.
Yeah.
And then you're like, nah, she's quirky.
Yeah, but they were
quirky.
They were almost Zooey Deschanel last year. they took it all the way, to the SEC championship.
Sure.
fought back and forth with Auburn, but they lost a lot. Anytime you lose a guy like DGB.
DGB.
Yeah. So
and their QB.
They lose their starting quarterback, who really didn't get much credit, but was definitely the leader of their team.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to bring him up, but Michael Sam, their best defensive player last year. Gay or not, was a beast. Definitely had an SEC. I think he was the defensive player of the year last year. So They lost a lot of talent, and just didn't have it on Saturday.
Right, and Bud Sasser, who I had drafted in our college football fantasy draft, thought he was a white guy. Never knew a black guy named Bud. Bud Sasser sounds like the whitest name of all time. Let's get over to Auburn. My asshole was clinched.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that one.
Well, we had the Bucks and Atlanta game at the same time. Going into it, I was like, Thursday's going to be pretty fun for an Auburn fan and a Bucks fan. While I went on stage at the Tampa Improv, did a 5-minute set, came out, the Bucks are losing 21-0.
In the first quarter.
In the first quarter. So I'm watching the Auburn game the rest of the way through, and it was a slug match. It was sloppy all over the place.
Turnovers.
This is very much our team makeup is just doing enough to win, getting that one crazy big play, on a really ballsy streak of a play. Really, everybody thought we'd be really conservative on that play, and it was kind of crazy. Number 44 for Kansas State, I forgot his name, all over the place.
Yeah, Kansas State was ready to play. And I'm going to take it more of a tough environment, a tough team that really wanted to win that game for Kansas State, and I think Auburn made a few mistakes that they were able to overcome, but it was a good win for them. Anytime you got to go on a Thursday night and play at Kansas State with a pretty decent team, I think you've got your hands full.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a reflection of how good Auburn really is. It's early in the season, a lot of room to improve. So I think it was more of Kansas State really came to play.
And I know, the turnovers we got were kind of sloppy too. I mean, the one in the end zone was lucky. The linebacker was trailing, the slot receiver bounces off.
Yeah. It hit him right in the chest, bounced off, and turned into a pick in the end zone. Auburn definitely. I knew that Auburn was really going to win the game when Kansas State missed 2 field goals. Interception in the end zone. That's too many points that you're leaving out there against a top 10 team.
Yeah.
Those are the plays you have to make to pull that kind of an upset.
Yeah, a little bit of controversy after the game too that they thought Auburn was stealing signals. I don't know how much validity there is to that.
That's been going on since the national championship game. I think it's just a load of BS. Shouldn't even be a top.
I know much more. Didn't read it. I saw it and was just like, all right. Well, I don't know if you. I don't know if you want to get into anything else. I didn't watch Oregon, Washington State. I
caught a little bit of that.
I was passed out at that time. You were probably.
I was
pretty healthy.
I was feeling good. No, I caught the end of it, and really, Oregon's defense. They're going to have to tighten it up a little bit if they want to get into a playoff game in the Final Four, which it's looking like they're likely to get there. But the types of mishaps on D, they can't happen. You can't. I know that they can score a lot of points and they can typically outscore everyone, but against better defenses, the type of defenses they're going to see if they do make it into a playoff are going to be able to force some turnovers and limit some of their big plays. So we'll see. Jury's still out. They did come out with the win, but your boy almost pulled off the upset.
I know. I was so happy for him.
I was really hoping it would happen.
I know. Mike Leach is the man, and Connor Holiday, 436.
Yeah,
not bad in the air.
They had a lot of success through the air.
And a guy named River Crawcraft.
What a name!
I chose him on FanDuel just because of his name. I was like, Who I need a Washington State receiver. I don't know which one yet. Oh, River? Yeah, he's on the team. I lost, by the way. But
Yeah.
well, I had too much faith in T.J. Yeldon.
Yeah.
Kind of hurt me. But
Yeah, Derrick Henry definitely stole a lot of carries from Yeldon. They kind of went with the hot hand.
Yeah. I don't know much about this game. I saw very few highlights. As I say, every time I wake up on Sunday, it's like I wake up late and it's like Saturday football never happened on ESPN.
Right.
So I know I could go search for him, but I watched a lot of NFL. I don't know. I got not much more than that. I'm a little gassed as well, as you are. Anything else you got? This would be a quick guy.
Yeah, I will say I caught some of the early game, the Georgia Tech Virginia Tech game. I think was one of the better games of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Tech, it really just kind of did enough to win, last second field goal, and you've got to be disappointed if you're a Virginia Tech football fan right now.
Sure.
Pulling that upset. I mean, they went from the ultimate high to, dropping 2 in a row. Really got to be hurting. You take out Ohio State, you think this is going to be a great season, and look at where they are now.
Yeah, and I mean, look at you can't feel comfortable if you're Arizona, barely beating Cal, who was garbage last year, 49-45. Rich Rod.
I think a little bit of a hangover for Arizona, but they got the W.
Where are we at?
I think Spurrier's comments were pretty awesome after the Vandy game. To Vandy and Spurrier's was not too pleased. Basically his comment in the presser. Vanderbilt's not necessarily an offensive juggernaut.
I like old Spurrier now. He's awesome.
And that everybody's seen good football teams and we ain't one of them. So. South Carolina got the win. Ended up cranking it up and getting a couple late touchdowns. But it's tough to figure South Carolina out. We'll see how they end up down the road. But definitely a tricky team to follow.
Also, Pitt losing to Iowa, kind of a somewhat big upset. I didn't know they had the leading running back in the country, and James Conner, something like that. I can look it up. Kind of a disappointment, I guess, on Pitt. They look like they're starting to take the driver's seat, really go off of some stuff. Nebraska beating Miami, that old rivalry. Yeah, James Conner. I was right. Okay, memory. That old rivalry was interesting. Duke Johnson got shut down. I think that was a lot of it. I think a couple fights broke out in that game. I can't remember. I did
not. I can tell you, I did not catch one play of that game.
And here's why I don't gamble.
Yeah.
I told you West Virginia would cover. They did not.
Yeah.
They did not. That was my upset pick. They did not cover. And what you should do is I'm going to keep telling people what to bet on our Twitter account or on our Facebook page. And then you just do the opposite, and you'll be pretty rich. You know that guy that had all the question marks all over him? Richer than that guy.
Yeah.
Remember that guy?
Yeah.
Matthew Lesko. I'll make you rich by teaching you how to learn your taxes. That guy. You'll be richer than that guy. So
one thing I skipped right over. I don't know how I didn't think of this, but
East Carolina?
No. Just the fact that we talked about the Arizona game and we didn't really talk about how they won on a Hail Mary.
Hail Mary?
That was probably the biggest play of the weekend.
Yeah, we're both on fumes, I think.
Yeah, amazing. Anytime the Hail Mary is completed, to win the game, I think that's got to be the play of the weekend.
I had too much NFL fun yesterday, and it kind of ruined me today.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, looking ahead, man, next week I'm just kind of browsing through the slate of games.
We don't want to stomp on Brendan and Beth, but we will go ahead and look at this.
Yeah. Just not a lot to look at, honestly. A lot of weak out of conference, opponents for some of the bigger teams in the country. I think Arkansas and Texas A&M is kind of a sneaky game.
Uh-huh.
A&M probably going to be, I think they're favored. I think it's 9 or 10. Arkansas, they're going to be able to have some success running the ball, really against anybody. They have one of the best rushing attacks in the country. So I think we'll see them A&M get tested this weekend.
I think so.
That's the game of the weekend for me.
Okay. You know who I like is USF playing Wisconsin. Even though Wisconsin isn't great, USF not as bad, pretty bad. But I'm interested to see what they do with Mack at running back.
Yeah, no, I mean he's a talented player, so they've got a little bit of fight.
You gotta like, man, this is an ugly slate of games.
I know that we typically we've had a couple rough weeks early on, but it never really fails to amaze me. There's always some good quality games, no matter what on paper what they look like.
Someone will always shit down their leg, and it could be Missouri going to South Carolina. That's an interesting matchup considering they both have one loss. You got Washington State at Utah. Utah's kind of getting in the mix of being a quality program and a good school this year. Looking at some others, I guess Missouri, South Carolina State's got to be the best game.
It's a good matchup out in the 12 pack. We've got Arizona State, UCLA.
Okay.
As far as rankings go, that's probably the best matchup. You've got number 11 UCLA against number 15 Arizona State. Late game, so definitely gonna have to drink a 5-hour about 8 o'clock if you wanna stay up for this one.
I like Cincinnati at Ohio State. Let's see if Gunnar Kiel can keep it going.
Yeah, a guy that I'm not sure if everybody knows the name, but one of the more highly recruited quarterbacks to come out a few years ago. But it just feels like he's been playing college football for quite some time. He's kind of a journeyman. I think he started off his career at Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. Landed at Cincinnati. First game through 5 TDs.
By way of saying he was going to go to LSU and didn't.
Right, said he was going to go to LSU.
There's another school
before Notre Dame, and then we've got the awesome Les Miles quote. Didn't say Gunnar Kiel's name directly because of rules. He was just a recruit, but he said that he didn't have the chest to play for LSU.
And that's why I like Les Miles, even though he's on LSU.
Yeah, that's just not really sure what to make of that. But whatever, a lot of crap comes out of that guy's mouth.
He's your drunkle.
Yeah, he is definitely the drunk uncle with just a horrible dye job. Every time I see him, his hair's this weird orange. It's like, dude, you look terrible.
It's from eating grass, man. That's what happens to your hair color. You know that? You get jaundice.
But I bet you gotta love him. You gotta love the guy.
Yeah, I look. LSU's my least favorite team, and I wouldn't say I was going for Mississippi State, but in another way, I kind of was.
Right.
Openly out at a bar, but. I like Les Miles because he's just a fucking weirdo.
He's definitely he's odd.
Yeah. All right. I think we're totally hungover and done with this.
Yeah, I'm gassed.
Episode.
And I just got my voice back, and now it's probably gonna be gone again.
There you go. Make sure you tell a friend. 3xopod.com. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We are on FanCred. We are on YouTube /3XO Network. You can see our man cave of greatness live and in person if you want. It kind of looks like a prison because I have that hipster cinder block kind of look in my loft here in Tampa, Florida. Much love for you. And anything else you got to say?
No.
Okay, wise words. All right. Enjoy the games.